We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Dalid Amid Beis in Meseches Shabbos. This is Shabbos Daf 34b. The Gemara continues a statement of Rava. Mifnei ma amru ein tomnin bedover hamosif hevel. Why do the Chachamim say that a person is not allowed to insulate hot food with a substance that adds heat? Va'afilu mibod yom, even if he's doing that insulation before Shabbos starts. Gezeira, it's a decree, shemayatzmin beremetz sheyesh bo gacheles. We're afraid he's going to insulate with ashes that contain within them coals. Amar le Abaye, so Abaye says to Rava v'yatzmin, why not do that also? What's the problem before Shabbos with insulating hot foods with ashes that have coals? Gemara says, Gezeira shemayechta b'gechalim. That's a gezeira, we're afraid he's going to stoke the coals. When the coals are going out, he'll do that in order to increase the heat. And if that takes place, of course, on Shabbos, that would be an Isser Midoraisa. Gemara now continues with the Braisa, Tanur Rabbanu, we learned in a Braisa. Bein hashmasha safek min hayom umin halayla, safek kulo min hayom, safek kulo min halayla. When it comes to bein hashmashas, there's a safek whether it's daytime, whether it's nighttime, and the safek is even if part of it might be the day, part of it might be the night, or the entire thing might be the day, or the entire thing might be the night. Matilin oso lechomer shnei yomim. And therefore we say that we have to apply the chumras of both. The ezeu ben hashmashas, and what exactly is ben hashmashas? Mishatishka hachama, it's from the time the sun sets, kolzman shepnei mizrach ma'adimin, all of the time that the east is red. Hichsev hatachton v'lo hichsev ha'elyon. Now if the lower part of the hemisphere becomes dark, but the upper part of the sky is not dark, ben hashmashas, that's ben hashmashas. Hichsef ha'elyon v'hishvel atachnim, but if they all become dark, zehu laila, that's when it's night. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Now exactly what Rabbi Yehuda means, we will explain in the Gemara, because the Gemara first talked about the east being red. Rabbi Yehuda first talked about the east being red, and then he talks about the lower part being dark and not the upper part. So what's going on over there, we will see. Rabbi Nechemia says, Kadei sheyahalech Adam mishatishka hachama chatzi mil. The amount of time of ben hashmashas is the amount of time it takes a person to walk from the time the sun sets a half a meal. Once he walks that distance, that's the end of ben hashmashas. Rabbi Yossi says ben hashmashas karafayin. Ben hashmashas is like the blink of an eye. Zen nichnas v'zayotze. One enters and one leaves. Day exits and the nighttime begins. V'iev shalamod olav. It's impossible to know the precise time of ben hashmashas. So now the Gemara quotes, Amar Mar, the master said, Matilan oso lechomer shnei yomim. So he said that ben hashmashas, it could be fully day, it could be fully night, it could be partially day and partially night. So it said that we apply the chumras of both. So the Gemara says, Lamai hilchasa. For what practical halacha does that apply? Now Rashi explains the question a little more in depth. Lamai hilchasa, Rashi says, Yatilu olav safek. For what are we applying this idea of safek shema mishneim, that it might be both day and night? Shama Mishneim Yeshbo, that it might contain both. And he explains, Bishlama Safek Kulo Min Hayom. I understand that it might completely be day. Motzei Shabbos. A good example would be on Motzei Shabbos. If it's daytime, it's still Shabbos, so you have a problem there. Lahavi Asham Talui. Then you'd have to bring an Asham Talui because maybe it was Shabbos. Maybe you did an Isser of Chilul Shabbos. Also, Safek Kulo Min Halayla. Let's say it's totally night. Linyan Leile Shabbos. So, for example, on Friday night, if you do something on Ben Hashmashas, you have a suffix, maybe it's Shabbos. Elachomer Shneim L'mai Hilchasa. Where do you come up with a case where you have the chumrah that it's both day and night? Where do you come up with a practical scenario? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Huna B'Reider Rav Yoshua. Rav Huna B'Reider Rav Yoshua says, L'inyan Tumah would apply for issues of Tumah. Kiritnan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Ra Shnei Yomim. If the Zav saw his Ziva for 2 days, Bein Hashmashas, 2 consecutive Bein Hashmashas days, so Safek L'Tumah Ula Karbon. It's actually going to be a Safek whether he's Tameh, certain types of Tumah, and a Safek whether he has to bring a carbon. Ra Yom Echad Bein Hashmashas, and if you would see, let's say, 1 day Bein Hashmashas, Safek L'Tumah would actually be a Safek for Tumah. You need Rashi over here to understand what's going on. Rashi explains, Ra Shnei Bein Hashmashas Ziva. If a Zav saw 2 Bein Hashmashas in a row of Ziva, the Zav mitame biyamim uvereiyas. Now a Zav is tame when he sees in consecutive days or multiple reiyos. Bein shara shtayim b'yom echad, whether he would see 2 re'iyos in one day, bein shara shtayim b'shnei yamim ritzufim, or if he saw twice in 2 consecutive days, bein shara achas b'shnei yam, or if he saw once in 2 days. Could go in bein hashmashas. For example, if you would see once at bein hashmashas, chashav le kishtei re'iyos, that actually would be counted as 2 re'iyos misham yamim, because it's considered 2 separate days if that bein hashmashas is both day and night. Di'alfinan mila zachar v'lenekeva, ma nekeva b'yamim, av zachar b'yamim. We know that just like an akeva goes by days, so to a zachar, or re'iyos begufei mifrasha, and re'iyos is explained in the zachar itself, kinetanya v'megillah, mana kasav shtayim v'karotami v'chulu, as the Gemara, as the Bryce and Megillah explains. So now Rashi elaborates how all of this works. Safek l'tumah l'karban, meaning, safek tamei, safek tar. He has a doubt whether he's tam or tar. Safek chayiv karban, im hatama, safek eno chayiv karban. And there's a doubt, in the case where he sees 2 consecutive bein hashmashas, there's also a doubt if he's chayiv a karban or not. Avol tamei shiva, avol tamei shiva. But in such a situation, he would be tamei for 7 days, even though he's not bringing a karban. And Rashi explains, the zav bal shtei re'iyos, o shnei yamim, kol toras tumas zav and olav. O shlishi meviyas l'dei karban. The rule is as follows. If a zav sees twice, or he sees 2 consecutive days, he is a full zav. He has to do 7 days of counting till he's tar. And a 3rd sighting is going to bring him to a karban. Now this guy who sees tumah 2 consecutive bein hashmashas, safek yom echadu. So the first doubt is maybe it was all in one day. V'tami b'shnei re'iyos, so he's got 2 re'iyos in one day. That's tumah. O shnei yamim ritzufanin, or maybe they're 2 consecutive days. V'tami nami v'toras yamim. Then he'd have a tumah of 2 consecutive days, which would be the same idea. Safek beis yamim she'ein ritzufim. Another possibility is that he's now seen 2 days that were not consecutive. She'ein ritzufin hein v'tar. Then he's tar mitumas shiva. Then he doesn't have tumas shiva at all. Ela kabal keri bi'alma. He's just like a regular bal keri. Delav shtei re'iyos b'yom echadika. You don't have 2 sightings in one day. V'lo shnei yamim ritzufin. And you also don't have 2 consecutive days. You don't have that either, because you have basically a day in between. And another possibility is Safek Shein Gimel Yamim Ritzufin. It's possible that he actually saw twice within 3 consecutive days. The Zav Gomer who have carbon. Then it not only would be a full Zav, he'd also have to bring a carbon. Ketzad, how would that be? Shema Ben Hashmashas Harishon Kulo Min Hayom. For example, maybe the first Ben Hashmashas was daytime. Or Ben Hashmashas Hasheni Kulo Min Halayla. And if the second Ben Hashmashas was nighttime, Benimsa Yom Echad Hefsek Ben time. Now you have a day of separation between Vitar, he'd be tar, he'd be like a Balkari. O Shneim Min Hayom, or they might both be from the day, Dahavalu Shnei Yom Ritzufin, that would be 2 consecutive days. V'chenim Shneim Min Halayla, Havalu Nami Shnei Yom Ritzufin. If they're both night times, you also have 2 consecutive days. O Shema Im Harishon Min Halayla, V'hasheni Min Hayom. Maybe the first one partially it was in the night, and the second one was partially in the day. Havalu nami shtei re'iyos b'yom echad v'tamei shiva. Now you'd have a situation of 2 re'iyos in one day, and you'd be tamei 7. B'cholelu, in all these cases, vein kan carbon. In no case that we've said so far is there a carbon. Finally, we get to the last scenario. Maybe both re'iyos were both partially in the day and at night. Then you actually have 3 consecutive days. Similarly, if the first one would be partially in the day and partially at night, and the second one would be totally the night. Or maybe the first one would be during the day, and the second one would be partially during the day and partially at night. You'd have 3 consecutive days in those scenarios. Carbon, it would require carbon. Therefore, in this case, where a person had re'iyas in 2 consecutive bein hashmashas, he'd have a doubt of bringing a carbon as well. Or maybe chatas ha'of ha'bol ha'safek. He'd bring a carbon chatas of an oaf, which generally comes for a suffix, ve'ein nachelas, and it would not be eaten, t'shem alad bar carbon, because maybe he's not really someone who should be bringing a carbon, or malikas chul nevela, which would mean that it's chulin, and you can't do malika on chulin, it would be considered an nevela. So in any case, all of that explanation of Rashi is to explain how bein hashmashas could be a situation where it's a chomer shnei yamim, where you can have a chomer on both sides. Essentially a chomer on both sides, meaning you can have a situation where we don't know whether you may have 3 consecutive days in this scenario. So in any case, the Gemara now goes back to Rabbi Yehuda, as I said before, The Gemara wants to understand exactly what Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is in terms of what Bein Hashmashas is. So the Gemara says, Hagufa Kashi, you have an internal contradiction in the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Amrit Ezo Bein Hashmashas. On the one hand, you said, what's Bein Hashmashas? Mishatishka Achama calls Man Shepnei Mizrach Madimin. As long as the face of the east is red after sunset. That implies, it implies that if the lower part of the hemisphere is dark, and the upper part is not, it's actually already night. Then it says, and the opposite, it says that if it's hichsav atachton v'lo hichsav elyon, it is bein hashmashas. It's not night yet. So Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. So Rabba says in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, Kroch v'tani, you should put these two parts of the opinion of Rav Yehuda together. Ezo bein hashmashas. What is bein hashmashas? Mishatishka achama, from the time the sun sets, calls man shepnei mizrach ma'adimin, all the time that the face of the east is red. V'hichsev atachton v'lo hichsev elyon nami bein hashmashas, and it continues to be bein hashmashas even when the lower part of the hemisphere is dark and the upper part is not. Hichsev elyon v'hishel atachton, when the entire sky becomes dark, laila, then it's actually night. So Rabbah actually has a pretty long bein hashmashas in his answer. His answer is from the time that it's the pnei mizrach is ma'adimin all the way through until Hichsev Elyon Vatachtim. Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, but Rav Yosef says in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, a slightly different answer. He says, Hachi Katani, here's how you should learn Rav Yehuda's words. Mishatishka Achama calls man shepnei mizrach ma'adim in Yom. As long as the face of the east is red, it's actually still day. Hichsev atachton v'lo hichsev elyon. If the lower hemisphere becomes dark and not the upper, bein hashmashas, then it's bein hashmashas, just that time period, a shorter time period. Hichsev elyon v'hishel atachton. If the entire sky becomes dark, laila, then it is the night. So the Gemara says, v'azdil l'tamai. You should know that both Rav and Rav Yosef, they follow their own opinions in a different place, meaning they're consistent with what they say, that Rabbah's time for bein hashmashas is longer than Rav Yosef's. The Itmar, because it was learned, Shir bein hashmashas bekama, how long is bein hashmashas? Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rabba says in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, Shlosha chelke meal, 3 portions of a meal. My gimel chelke meal, what does that mean? What's 3 portions of a meal? Ilei matlasa palge mila. Now if it means 3 halves of a meal, name a meal of mechza, that would just be a meal and a half. Eletz losa tilse mila, maybe it means 3/3 of a meal, name a meal, then you might as well just say a meal. Eletz losa rive mila, what he must mean is 3/4 of a meal. So his Rabbah's time for bein hashmashas is essentially the amount of time it takes to walk 3/4 of a meal. For Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Now Rav Yosef says in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, Shnei chalkei meal. It's 2 portions of a meal. Gemara asks similar questions. My shnei chalkei meal, what is 2 portions of a meal? Ilei matrei palge meal, if it means 2 halves, leima meal, that would just be a meal. Ve'ela trei rive meal, if it means 2/4, leima chatzi meal, I should say a chatzi meal. Ella, rather, what does it mean? And the Gemara will continue to explain Rav Yosef's opinion, so we'll see how Rav Yosef's time period is shorter than that of Rabbah's, and we'll continue that on Daf Lamed Hey Amid Aleph in the next video.